Good to be going down the road with you, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a lot of things we've got to get done today in a short period of time. Dr. John Miller is going to join us. He is head of Williston State College. He's the president, and so we'll talk to him about how tuition works there, about student enrollment, about how important trade and tech can be in that northwest corner of what is one of the most beautiful parts of our state. But we're going to start today with the man that I'm proud to call my friend. We're going to get a chance to visit with Too Tall Tom Szymanski. And one of the reasons, obviously, is because weather. Weather is on everybody's mind. You can see just looking outside the window at, what's been happening in our weather and what's been happening when it comes to all of the things we've been faced with. Heck, call somebody in Texas and see if weather plays a major role. I'm going to bring him in now, and that's my good friend, Tom Szymanski. How you been, bud?
Well, I couldn't quite sneak in. You saw me sneak in right behind you there. But
yeah, no, I put the weather map up there.
You did? Okay. Yeah, I snuck on in here. How you doing, Joe?
Not bad. How are you doing?
I'm alive and well.
Okay, good. So, Tom, I get to ask you this. Everybody looks at, cold spells like we were just in, and they think, all right, that's got to set a record. That's got to be historic. Was it?
Well, there's a couple things about it that should be noted. First of all, it was not even near historic in terms of the length, okay? We were in a six-way tie for fourth place, 10 straight days where the temperature, even during the day, didn't get above zero. Now, zero does count on the record. We had one day where it hit zero, but the rest of the days it was zero or below for the entire 24-hour period on the clock. And so the most recent time that ever happened was 1994, okay? So we had to get one more day to tie that infamous cold snap that most recently was set in 1996 when we had 11. That would have put us in the tie for second. But we missed it by a couple of degrees. It got up to 2 degrees on day 11, so we didn't quite get there.
All those years of working in weather, couldn't you have fixed that?
Well, if I could fix the weather, Joel. Well, I think you know where I'm going with that.
You'd be golfing already.
It'd be golfing already. The 1996 cold snap is notable because that's the time where we had a high temperature on February 1st, 1996 of 29 below the high. And the low was 38 below. I believe that was the coldest day in Fargo history in terms of average between the high and low. That's the day I tossed the hot water up in the air, and it went nationwide. And I even got some royalties from the Learning Channel for that one. My parents were in Ixtapa, Mexico, and they caught me on the evening news there, and they said, "What in the blank are you doing, man?" But the odd thing about it, too, Joel, to directly answer your question, there were no records, individual records set during that stretch. We didn't have any record lows for any day that happened there. It was just cold for 10 straight days, and the type of cold that we normally get here, but it just extended for 10 straight days.
It was, though. I mean, it just, one of those deals where it just felt like you never got out of it. And of course, now looking into the next week cycle that you've been telling me about all week long, it's like, hey, you're going to get a smile back on your face.
Or a frown, depending how you look at it. Yeah. I've actually heard some people, they want more of it. They want to make that ice thicker.
Who are they? I mean, the ice is thick enough to fish on now. Come on.
Oh, it's okay for you now, huh?
It's okay.
Well, the thing that made it more noteworthy, too, Joel, is that preceding that, it was so warm all winter, so it came as sort of a shock to the system. We usually get a lot of that cold air before it came. We didn't get it until February. We didn't have any cold air really to speak of in January.
So, all these years, I mean, everybody who's looking at you right now knows you. They know who you are. They've trusted you for years, through different television networks, through radio. You were in radio long before you were in TV, and,
7 years.
Right. And so now you're back in radio after I came to Bismarck and begged you to come back to radio.
You're a good salesman.
Yeah, I just told you get to go golfing earlier.
Yeah,
what I did.
That works.
But what have you seen change? Not just in the weather, that's every day that can change, but in the way you're able to deliver it, in the way that people understand it.
Well, first and foremost, the advent of the internet. I mean, when I first started doing the weather in radio, and even my first I did radio from 81 to 88 before I even stepped in front of a camera with this mug here and attempted TV, So when I first started doing TV in 88 in Mankato, Minnesota, there was no internet. So we got all of our weather maps off of a fax machine. It was called a die fax. So nothing was internet-based. We did all our work on a map. It was like hardcover, on a map. We did all our work that way, okay? So the internet really changed things a lot. Radar is number two, the advent of radar and the continuing technological advances in radar. When I went to school, there was no such thing as Doppler radar. We've had to have continuing education constantly just to learn the radar advances. And third, and perhaps even the most notable, was the advent of social media. before social media came along, we didn't have to post weather on Facebook. We didn't have to go to Twitter. We didn't have to go here. We didn't have to go there. All we did was go on the air and do the weather. Now we have to go on the air. We have to put it on Facebook, Twitter, and all these other things. So it's a multifaceted job in that regard. And, getting back to the internet thing, too, when I used to do the weather on TV my first couple of years, nothing was moving. When you saw a satellite picture, it was a still shot. Now we can put things into motion, and we can show things in the future. Just so many changes. Like I could spend a half hour telling you about it.
So what makes a young man, college athlete, college basketball player who, played against some of the biggest names the NBA had? What makes a man like that say, you know what, I want to be in front of a TV camera doing weather someday?
Instead of basketball?
Well, I mean, you did get recruited. You did play against guys like Larry Bird. I mean, what was that like?
I was in a tournament where his team was playing, but I didn't actually get to oppose him, but we were in the same building. I actually did share a floor with Magic Johnson. Okay.
What was that like?
Intimidating. I don't intimidate very easily, but we all knew who he was, obviously. Yeah. And he was on closed circuit TV for high school when we were in college. I'm a year and a half older than him, so he was still in college when I was in high school. And we used to watch him on closed circuit TV, and then all of a sudden we're sharing the floor with him the next year. And I believe I had 6 points in that game. He had a few more, and we got killed. But I was always a good enough basketball player to get the full ride scholarship. But even when I was in my late teens to early 20s, my knees were starting to talk to me even at that young of an age. And there were really no thoughts of going further than college. I knew I wasn't good enough to take the next step, and I knew that my body wouldn't carry me any more than maybe the mid-20s, late 20s. I had a chance to play ball in Europe. I was actually offered a chance to go play in France. But I turned it down because I saw the big picture. I wanted to use my basketball scholarship to parlay my education. So combining basketball with just about a 4-point GPA, I got a scholarship to attend graduate school. So I actually had a scholarship for my master's degree in Nebraska. And I always wanted to do this, ever since I was in third grade when a weatherman came and talked to my class. And I told him that I wanted to be just like him when I grew up.
Really?
Yeah, it all started for me in third grade.
So why? I mean, what was it about it?
It's hard to say.
I mean, I don't know too many young third graders who say, you know what, I want to be a weatherman someday.
Yeah, that's true. I was always fascinated with, I started keeping track of the different types of clouds and the wind direction. We grew up along Lake Michigan, so we had sort of a microclimate around Lake Michigan, and we had strange weather occurrences there. And I was always just fascinated with how the weather changed, not just day to day, but within the day, week to week, and season to season. And I just grew up being fascinated with the weather. I always did. I was always into science. I loved math. I loved physics. I loved science. That's the side of the brain that operates the best for me. Some people like art. Some people like literature. I like math.
So somebody asked me, when they knew that I'd come out to Bismarck to recruit you to come back into radio and to come back into the Red River Valley. You were doing TV at the time out in Bismarck. My whole point was, number one, with weather, you want somebody people trust. Mm-hmm. You're never going to be right 100% of the time, but you want somebody people trust. And someone who doesn't exaggerate it. Somebody who doesn't say, well, we're going to get an 8-inch rain or we're going to get a 6-inch rain. And there are people in the market who, I'm not trying to name names or out anyone, but there are people who use that podium to kind of scare people, so to speak. You don't do that, and I always respected that about you, Tom.
Early in my career, I did it a few times because I was trying to get attention more when I was trying to make my name or my footprint in the business. And I learned the hard way a few times when you try to over-exaggerate the weather and you're wrong time and time again, people just start tuning you out. So I kind of had to reel myself in that regard. The business has gotten more consultant-driven over the years, and, the sexier headline gets the attention a lot of times. So the approach and this is not just here, it's nationwide, the approach that a lot of people in the media, be it news, sports, weather, whatever, they try to get a real shocker headline out there so they'll kind of grab you so that they have your attention. And from there, they'll probably tail it back. So in other words, I could start forecasting a storm for next week and say, well, we're going to get 7 feet. Then each day that passes, I'll drop it a foot until I say, oh, we're only going to get an inch, when I should have, in fact, said we're going to get an inch or 2. So it's not as sexy, so to speak, to tell people the truth and try to be conservative right off the bat. But on the other hand, being wrong so many times, it'll catch up to you.
Yeah. What do you do for people who can sit and pick up their cell phone and say, okay, right now it's
weather app.
14. Yeah, exactly. I mean, how do you, I mean, when I see this, when we talk about accuracy, it's not very accurate, but I think people rely on it a lot. And so how do people like myself who work in the same medium as you and say, hey, listen, if you truly want to know, you got to go to Tom to find out. I mean, how big of a hurdle is that getting to be with the generation below us?
Well, and that's how they get their news. A lot of them get their news via social media, via phone apps, and you know, I wouldn't say it's a battle, but that's what they do, and that's why we, in our line of work, put our work out on the internet too, and that's how they get their work from us. I have no problem with people who look at their phones for temperatures and things. You know, current conditions, it's pretty reliable, but a lot of these phone apps, when they try to tell you a forecast, for instance, there'll be like a timeline, noon, 2, 4, 6, or whatever, and at 2 o'clock there'll be this big lightning bolt on there, and then people are automatically thinking at 2 p.m. we're going to get a thunderstorm, when in fact that's more than likely not going to happen. So you don't get very many specifics out of something like that. You get more of a broad generality. So, you know, we just ask people, listen, if you want the weather, take a few minutes out of your day and listen. I'll do my best to give you the information you need.
Well, one of the reasons that I brought that question up is because you don't exaggerate it, and because you don't exaggerate it at times. A perfect example, you know, I don't remember what happened 3 years ago or 4 years ago. But when I say to you, man, that's a cold snap like we haven't had in a long time, and then you say to me on air, well, Joel, actually, just a couple of years ago we did, you know. So, I mean, there really is some history and science to it.
There is, and we're all prisoners of the moment, too, you know, and especially nowadays, there will be a lot of commentary from national media sources. Oh, storms like this, we haven't seen anything like this forever, when in fact, you know, this happens more often than not. And there's a lot of catchphrases that are used out there. Record temperatures in the Northeast, when in fact what they're talking about is a record for the date. They'll say it's never been this cold in 100 years. Well, on this date, maybe it hasn't, but it has been that cold in the last 100 years.
When you come back sometime, I want to talk to you about climate change.
Sure.
I'm going to talk you into coming back, and when you do, I'm going to wear my Vikings jacket. Okay, I'm not going to just let.
Do you think we're going to have a battle about that or something?
We have in the past.
All right.
It was all done with good spirits in mind.
Yep.
Spirits being the key word there. When we come back, let's head to Williston. Dr. John Miller is going to join us. He's the president of Williston State College, and we'll visit with him right here as we go down the road.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef in all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Did you know the Foundation for Rural Service awards scholarships for rural students? The scholarships range from $2,500 to $7,000. Go to www.frs.org for information and applications.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Pub 21, your one stop for fun, drinks, and food. Our spacious facility provides COVID-safe fun for you and all your friends. With nightly bingo and specials, you can be sure there's something to do for everyone. If you're staying in for the night, we've got you covered just across the way with Pub 21 Liquor. We have a wide variety of options, from wine to whiskey and everything in between. Stop in today at 1014 South 12th Street in Bismarck to see what all the buzz is about. You won't be disappointed.
Good to have you going down the road with us. One of the great things about the jobs that I hold, this one and my job in radio, is that I get a chance to get out, get around the state, meet a lot of great folks, and try to bring some of that message back to you, whether it be through the television or whether it be through the radio. But you do get a chance to go to places that normally you might not be. I mean, I right now live 8 miles from South Dakota and 12 miles from Minnesota. Now, that's a long ways from Williston, North Dakota, but I love it when I get a chance to go there, and I go there a lot. And recently when I was up there, I got a chance to visit again with Dr. John Miller. Now, he is the president of Williston State College, and we're going to bring him in right now. Dr. Miller, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Good afternoon, Joel. Thank you. It's good to be here.
I love your campus. I got one of your masks that you gave me when I was up there, and I've got so many coyotes that you know, and so many Tetons that are on my team at the radio station. They're trying to steal it, so I had to pretend I blew my nose in it. So now they're leaving it alone. Okay.
Actually, you could just tell your staff, if they tell me that they want something, we'll send it to them.
Don't baby these guys. If you start doing that, it'll be hats, it'll be T-shirts, it'll be everything that goes with it. So how are things in Williston? How are they going today?
Things are great here. I mean, we're actually reloading and getting ready for the spring, the summer and the fall semesters right now. This is an exciting time for us because we get to reaffirm the whole scholarship program that we have. And, you know, in this part of the state, it's a very well-known thing. In the eastern part of the state, not so much. But we have 4 regional scholarships that are endowed by individuals and supported by our foundation. And basically, students from, I think it's up to 12 counties now, can attend school for 2 years at Williston State with free tuition and free fees. It's a game changer. And there are just so many of our kids that might not have the opportunity to attend college right out of high school, that it gives them the opportunity to do that. So, I mean, it is literally one of the best things that we do throughout the years when we start going out, talking to high schools, parents about the opportunity. Because invariably people say, we had no idea that you do this. And in truth, this will be the 5th year that the foundation has supported those scholarship programs. And it's just a wonderful thing. And I've always believed that the whole have and have not things sometimes that we have in society, you know, good people helping out with resources take care of a lot of those things. And this is one of those perfect examples.
I mean, there are a lot of people right now that are shaking their head going, what? In a 12-county area, what you believe to be 12 counties, you wouldn't have to pay tuition? I mean, how do you make that work? I know that there's people, obviously, that have been very generous to Williston State, but tuition year after year, it isn't like you're some 30 person enrollment institution. I mean, you got a lot of young minds coming in there. How fiscally do you make that work?
Well, it really comes down to looking at the graduating seniors in those counties and figuring out how many there are every year. And then our goal is always for half of the graduating seniors at least to attend Williston State College. Sometimes we're a little bit above that, sometimes a little below, but that helps us quantify the need to the foundation. And you know, our donors have been incredible through the Williston State College Foundation, and the challenge grant that is funded by the legislature, that's helped us out a ton. And I mean, that is a great soundbite when we can go to a potential donor and say, you know what, your dollars are going to get basically doubled by the time we get done looking at the legislature and that sort of thing. So, I mean, there's certainly a lot of moving parts to it, but it really runs and works because of donors and ongoing support. And, you know, up in this part of the country, we're in the oil patch, and obviously there's some energy leases and that sort of thing involved. There's a lot of just great 6th and 7th generation families in the Williston area that have always been supporters of the college and contributors. And they continue to do that and really turn on a dime when we have a need. So, and it's not just that overlay either. For instance, all of our students in the health-related programs, there's a whole nother scholarship for them. So our nursing students, our massage therapy, there's a whole nother level of support for those students as well. Same with diesel technology and welding technology. So we've got these endowments all over the place that the foundation really successfully manages, and it's just a blessing to our students. And year in and year out, it's again a great message that we can give to people that this is some place you can come, get started with your higher education career, and walk away without a whole lot of debt.
So, Dr. Miller, it's one thing to be able to provide that fiscal incentive. It's another thing to make them want to go there, to get the kind of education there. Now, in many of the two-year colleges that we have, one of the fights that I had in my old days as a legislator was making sure those credits found their way to the four-year institution, so that if they had higher goals, wanted to start on a two-year campus, and yet maybe changed their mind and went to an NDSU or UND or Minot State or any of those afterwards, that what the work they did on your campus finds its way to the other campus. Does it? Are we doing better there?
Yep, we get better all the time. I mean, there's two things. Really, when you have an associate's degree from a community college, it's packaged and it always transfers very well. And that's with the exception of a college that doesn't take transfer students at all. So I think, like, and this is no disrespect to Kathy Nessa, one of the board members, because she's a Brown alum, but I'm not sure Brown University accepts transfer credits. So they wouldn't take anything. But a package degree works very well. And then in North Dakota, we have that whole other general education core consortium that we call GERDA. And it's put everything on a level playing field when people are using the same sort of course numbering, the same course descriptions. And so it makes it pretty simple if there's a question for our registrar to talk to the registrar from another college and say, hey, here's what we do. And those folks trade syllabi and all those things back on a regular basis. So, I think everybody pulls in the right direction, which is not creating barriers for students and parents in initial choices and then as they move on and transfer to. So that's getting better all the time. It's one of those things we have to keep watching for because we want everything we do to be meaningful for students, and that includes transfer education.
So I haven't heard a president of the United States in my adult life yet that didn't say how important the trades were and how we need to get that next generation into the trades. I know in North Dakota that's needed immensely. How are we doing there? Does trade and tech have a bigger footprint now than what it did 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
I think absolutely it does. Society's changed. The rapidity where technology makes the workplace and jobs change has really made it necessary for career and technical education to move up the ladder some. And I think that's going to keep happening more and more all the time. I tell people, sometimes it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but our last great frontier is as soon as we figure out how to do a virtual welding lab, there's going to be a lot of things that can happen by distance education. There's some things that simply can't yet, but business and industry changes so much, and the knowledge involved changes so much that for us to stay relevant, we have to change all the time too. That's really in the wheelhouse for community colleges because we consider ourselves pretty nimble by nature, but we need to be because if we're not going to be responsive to the people that count on us to provide them with trained workers.
Dr. Miller, you got a lot of people watching you from all corners of the state, so I don't want to lose this opportunity. I don't want you to give up this opportunity. And if you could, tuition aside, you already got their attention on that, but if there's one thing you could tell them about Williston State that they might not know, that you definitely want to make sure they do know, what would it be?
First and foremost, this is about learning and teaching on our campus. And that's really a hallmark of community colleges. So to start your college career, I really don't think there's a better place to begin your studies than a community college, because you have the very best instructors that the college has to offer that are in front of students every day. It's quality education, it's affordable education. So I think the quality of the product we produce in the classroom is really second to none, and I also believe that wholeheartedly with the rest of the community colleges in the North Dakota university system. Those folks do a great job.
Well, I can tell you this, I know way more Tetons now than what I ever did before. And so you're spot on right. And whenever you do this, when I've come to your campus and had that conversation, people will contact me and say, hey, I'm a Teton. Hey, good to see you. And I didn't know it before. You don't realize that. And you have a lot of graduates in the eastern part of this state that have gone on to different places, obviously, than the Williston Basin to live. But they're Tetons, and they'll always be Tetons. That's got to put a smile on your face, sir.
Oh, it does. You're absolutely right. And one of the things, the people that attended Williston State College and continue to, they look at us first and think about their college experience with Williston State first. And that's something that we're proud of, and it gratifies every day.
All right. Go Tetons. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Yep. Bye now.
Dr. John Miller, ladies and gentlemen, quite a man and quite a campus. If you're ever up in that area, take the time. They are so welcoming. They'll show you around and buy yourself a Teton sweatshirt. I got one. I'm pretty happy. When we come back, some thoughts about what's going on in our world. It's about as chaotic as can be. Let's visit right after this as we go down the road.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Beck Communications is hiring. Beck Communications is seeking qualified candidates for plant technicians in our Wheatland, North Dakota location. Beck Communications is an equal opportunity employer. To view the job details, visit www.beck.coop. To apply, email your cover letter and resume to careers@bechtel.coop. Beck Communications, making connections that matter.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
If you're a Beck Fiber customer or the dependent of a Beck Fiber customer, you might qualify for scholarships. Beck awards scholarships to seniors headed to college or to students attending University of Mary. Go to www.beck.coop for eligibility guidelines and applications.
The experienced professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless, and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Did you know the Foundation for Rural Service awards scholarships for rural students? The scholarships range from $2,500 to $7,000. Go to www.frs.org for information and applications.
You know, it's always good to have you coming down the road with us, even if it's going to be a little bit shorter version than what we normally have. But I get a chance to get this off my chest. You're an elected official. I just made you one. You win the election. You put your name in a hat. You said, you know what, I want the job. People went into that ballot box and they voted for you. And now it's time to do your job, right? The job that you ran for, the job that you wanted. It isn't all, oh boy, I get to wear a suit and where do I sit? And do people call me senator, representative, or congressman, or governor, or what? That isn't it. It's called work. Now it's time for work because you're going to go there and you're going to put your right hand up to God and you're going to swear an oath to the Constitution. And you're going to swear an oath to do the job that the people that sent you there wanted you to do. That's what you're doing, right? You're serving. You're serving. Sure, you're going to get up in the mirror in the morning, look in the mirror, and see something that other people don't see. I shouldn't say sure. I don't think I did. But Ted Cruz did. When he got up in the morning and he looked in the mirror, he saw a president. I'm not so sure he doesn't see a king. There is such a disconnect there. Let me give you some examples of what I'm getting at. And this is the worst of the worst. This is as bad as you can be. Texas is frozen. Texas is without power. It's coming on to some people now as we speak. But you know what they're going to find out when the power comes on? The pipes are busted. What they're going to find out in many cases you're already seeing in homes where the ceiling has fell in. They're going to see a lot of things, and none of it's good. And so where do we go? Well, what we do at times like this, if you're an elected official, is you lead. You're that conduit. Nobody's asking the Ted Cruzes of the world to go into a house and start soldering copper pipe together because Lord knows he couldn't, right? Nobody wants that. But what they do want to know is how they're going to get the money to pay for it and whether or not the government's going to help them in terms of the federal government stepping up in people's times of need during a natural disaster and help them so that they don't go broke doing it. They're going to want to know, do I keep these receipts? Do I apply for this before I do that? They're going to want to know that. They're going to want to be able to contact their United States senator. Well, what did Ted Cruz do? He went to Cancun. That's right. Ted Cruz decided to hop a plane with his family and go to Cancun and start spreading the word that I can't do anything anyway. Right. He can't contact the White House. He can't coordinate with FEMA, right? He can't sit there and talk to the governor about what we could do with the National Guard. He can't sit there and communicate with the governor about, hey, I'm getting calls from constituents in this town that think they're being ignored. Is there anything we can do to make sure that they don't feel ignored? I'm getting calls from Harriet over here. She hasn't seen anyone for a year, or for weeks, I should say. And Harriet needs help. Can we help her through the Senior Citizen Center? That's the job of a United States Senator. It's to serve. And what does Ted Cruz do? He goes to Cancun. And when he gets caught, and believe me, he got caught. When he gets caught, what does he decide to do? Well, now it's time to pivot. Now it's time to lay blame. Now it's time to maybe spin a little bit. Or in his case, just flat out lie. Because that's what he did. He comes out and he says, well, I was just going down there and going to take my kids down there and make sure they're safe and then come back. I was just going to take them because our house was out of heat and our house was out of water. And so I was just going to take them to a safe place. And forget the irony, ladies and gentlemen, about the fact that he thought the safe place was in Mexico and everything he said about Mexico and Mexicans and how he took his family. We can go in that all day long. But forget the hypocrisy of that. What he spun it as though he was just being a good father. That wasn't true. That wasn't true at all. Then then he started, because he wasn't leaving till Saturday. He wasn't leaving till Saturday. He wasn't going to go there, get them there, and then turn around and come back. That was not the plan. He was going to sit there and knowing Ted Cruz be wearing the Speedo, for all you know. So now Ted Cruz is sitting there, and it's like, okay, that didn't work. It was the kids. It was about the kids. The kids wanted to go. And, you know, being a father, I don't see my kids a lot. So, I mean, and we're in a cold house, and the kids wanted to go, and so, yeah. Yep, that's why we did it. Well, we found out that isn't true either. The idea was Heidi Cruz's. That's right, Mrs. Cruz, who, by the way, works at Goldman Sachs. So she starts sending emails out to all of her friends saying, hey, let's go down to the Ritz. Let's go to Cancun, go to the Ritz. It's under $400 a night for a room. And you're looking at right now some of that communication. That Ritz-Carlton, just $309 plus tax. And you know what? Here's the thing. As she tried to recruit people to go down there and have a party with her, here's the thing. They outed her. How do you think that thread got put out there? Which makes you wonder a little bit, if you're Heidi, who doesn't like me? Well, I'd be willing to bet a lot of them don't like you anymore, because a lot of people in Texas who are freezing, who are without water, who have to boil water with no electricity so they can't boil water, who haven't been able to flush their toilet, they're not sitting in the Ritz, right? They're not sitting there sending threads out like that and saying, come on, Ted, we're going. Now, here's the thing that I really, and it just jumps out at me, because now we're to lie number 2, right? Now we're to lie number 2. So what does Ted Cruz do? He comes back and he looks at the people of Texas and says, you know, I should have reconsidered. That this was a mistake. Really? Really, Ted? So that's going to be your answer. After all the people that you serve are sitting there in dire need of leadership, and you're just going to downplay it, and in my personal opinion, lie again and say that you really should have reconsidered and you weren't thinking. You were too thinking. You were too thinking. You knew exactly what you were doing. You just wanted to get away. Now, this is the same Ted Cruz, ladies and gentlemen, that fought the funding for Hurricane Sandy. So Hurricane Sandy hits, and it just takes a gut punch on New Jersey, right? They need money. But now New Jersey's in the Northeast. New Jersey votes Democratic, pretty much. I mean, they voted for Chris Christie, a Republican, for governor, but there's more Democrats in New Jersey than there are Republicans. So Ted Cruz leads the fight against funding for those people that suffered their losses from Hurricane Sandy. And how proud that must be for him to just be able to look and say, go home and, hey, I took those guys, those northern liberals, I just took them on. Should the folks from New Jersey now support Texas as it tries to rebuild after the devastation it's seeing? I bet you they do. I'll bet you they do. I'll bet you the United States senators from New Jersey vote to provide funding to help the people of Texas get back on their feet. I bet they do. And when they do, I hope they walk over to Ted Cruz and say, you know what? You can talk to me every day about being a Christian. You can talk to me every day about the importance of your religion. But this is when it matters. This is when you help people out. And he's shown time and time again that he won't. That he won't. Now, how does somebody like him get elected? I mean, really, if the GOP in Texas is going to win, which they've been winning for generations, why can't they find someone better than him? I mean, why can't they? Why can't they find someone with a heart, somebody that loves the people of their state, enough to care about them at a time of crisis and not run off to a beach somewhere? Why can't they find that person? There must be some other Republican in Texas that wants that job, that would be better at that job, because I can't imagine anybody that would be worse. Why can't they find someone? And know this, we just heard earlier in the show from Dr. John Miller from Williston State College, and we talked about what a great job that does for our area. Well, keep this in mind, okay? Ted Cruz went to Princeton, and then he went on to Harvard Law. I'll grab you any one of those diesel mechs. I'll grab you any one of those people that are welders. I'll grab you anyone that is in the beginning phases of her nursing career. Any one of those people that are coming through and graduating from Williston State. I'll sit them down and I'll look at them right now and say, if your hometown, your home state was being devastated by power outages, by lack of water, if you were being put in a position where people were dying because of the cold, would you help? Would you stick around and pitch in? Would you maybe get some water out to folks? Would you coordinate? Would you help us in any way at that time do it? And you know what those kids that went through Williston State would say? Of course I would. I mean, of course I would. There's no question about that. Of course I would. That's what I am. That's who we are. We're going to help each other out. Now, for those of you that are sitting there saying, all right, is he being too hard on Ted Cruz? There he is. Heitkamp the Democrat and Cruz is a Republican. Let me ask you this. If in the flood of 1997, if Byron Dorgan or Kent Conrad or Earl Pomeroy had hopped on a plane with their families and went down to Cancun while Grand Forks flooded and burned, what would you be saying about them? All you diehard Republicans out there who think, oh my God, you know, you're not used to getting punched in a state like this, right? But what would you do if that whole thing was reversed and it was Kent Conrad or Earl Pomeroy or Byron Dorgan or Heidi Heitkamp? You would be chastising them like you wouldn't believe. But you know what? You wouldn't have to. You wouldn't have to. And you know why you wouldn't have to? Because they'd be here. They'd be here working. Good riding with you, folks.